Christian and gospel music is going through a serious boom. According to Luminate's latest report, Christian and gospel has risen by 25% from 2024 to 2025, making it the second fastest growing genre in America behind rock. New superstars like Forrest Frank, Brandon Lake, and others are making faith-based songs cool for a TikTok generation, and the mainstream music business is starting to cash in. My guest today to break down Christian music's rise is Lecrae, a Christian artist and rapper who's witnessed the genre's evolution throughout his 2 decades of releasing hit songs. I'm going to ask him today, how did the Christian and gospel business get this big? And what makes this space distinct from about every other genre in music? All right, Lecrae, welcome to On The Record. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to get you here in LA because you're usually in Atlanta, right?
That's right.
Okay,
Yep.
but we're both from Texas, so we got the same roots. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Soul, the heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming. I really wanted on this season of the show to get into some genres that we haven't really covered yet.
Yep.
And one of the genres that we have not covered yet, if you could even call it a genre, is Christian music.
Yeah.
So I'll start there where we can just kind of discuss. I mean, Christian music is kind of really a subject matter rather than
There you go.
a genre.
Look at
So
you. Look at
yeah,
you.
can you kind of break down for me like all the different types within Christian and gospel?
It's the only genre that is based off of subject matter, right? Or content. I think it's over 51% of the content is referencing Christian subject matter, then it's Christian music.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So the only kind of piece of the Christian music industry that has this like a unique sound, so to speak, is gospel, right?
Okay.
So gospel has a unique sound. There's different publicists, labels, radio, all those different aspects. You know, in publishing, we have something, well, CCLI. It's where churches can license the music that artists write to use them on Sunday mornings.
Interesting.
So a lot of Christian artists who write music make sure that their music is licensed through CCLI.
Yeah.
And churches pay a particular fee, which is, I mean, it's pretty lucrative for a lot of these artists and these writers. So when you think about songs like "How Great Is Our God" or something like that, that every Sunday the writer of that song is getting paid for that song.
I find that to be so fascinating. Like being a Christian songwriter with a hit, you're eating for life.
For life.
That is insane to me. You can make a standard. Like that, I don't really think you can get that in any other genre.
Globally, you got to think globally, these churches are using a Chris Tomlin song and they're paying for that song every time they use it, every time they sing it on a Sunday. And I mean, how many churches are there in any given community, any given neighborhood? I mean, just go to like Kansas City, Missouri, go to Texas.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
like,
God. Yeah. And some of these churches have like just gigantic congregations. When we're talking about the kind of churches that are playing essentially like pop music in their services or rock music or whatever, these are congregations of thousands sometimes.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that's sticky subject when you're talking about faith-based music.
Well,
but
no, that's why I think the Christian music industry is so fascinating because, okay, the music business in general is already a sticky subject matter because it's a business whose product is someone's like life's work, their heart and soul poured out into art. And that's inherently always going to be difficult.
Yep.
When you add faith into it and money, it's I just like, I imagine it is really, really sticky. Tell me about that because you have your own record label, Reach Records.
Yeah.
You're an artist.
Yeah.
How has it been for you trying to navigate all of those things at once?
When I started off, I went to major labels. I said, hey, here's my demo. Here's my music. And the hip hop label said it's too Christian. So you should take it to the gospel label. So the gospel label said it's too hip hop. So none of them took us. So we just kind of created our own lane. Being an artist was what I was primarily trying to do, but I had to function as a label because there was nowhere to distribute my music. We kind of fell into being an independent label, and now 20 years later, of course, we've had to navigate it all. So now I feel like I went to college, the school of hard knocks in the music industry, you know what I mean? So I know how to do all the things now.
Walk me back to that time. This is like early 2000s, right? When you're doing this.
Yep.
So was Christian hip hop a thing at all?
Not really. So
Okay.
that's the funny thing. It was very underground. So super niche. I mean, it still is, but it's more accessible now. It was underground. There were no major label signings. There were no artists that had massive platforms. The two biggest groups were one group that was doing some work with Kirk Franklin called Gospel Gangsters, and another group called Cross Movement that was out of Philly, and they were kind of the biggest. And I mean, to sell 100,000 units over the course of a year and a half would have been like a big deal for them at the time. So it wasn't a thing, and all the tours were kind of mom and pop. Instead of the club scene, we had churches, like little mom and pop churches that you would tour, and so there was not a lot of action. So for us, we noticed that the West Coast and the East Coast were the more prominent voices within the Christian rap space because the industry existed there. But the South in mainstream was on the rise. So you had T.I. at this point in time, you had Lil Wayne, you had all these artists, Cash Money rising up. And we said, well, there's not a voice in the Christian space from the South. And so that is kind of where we took shape, took form. And it was gangbusters. There's a lot to that, but that's the
like
the
TLDR. Fast forward, it's going gangbusters. But I imagine you started to get noticed after that. I'm sure all the labels that said before, oh, it's too Christian for us, or oh, it's too hip hop for us, start calling.
So this is funny. This is a funny story. So we used to sell CDs on consignment to like stores. This is back when you bought music at a store, right?
Yeah.
This is the ancient days. But so there was a store that I wanted to sell my music, and I said, hey, will you buy, 10 of my CDs, my first CD? Of course, they said, well, we'll buy 2 and see if anybody wants them. And if they want them, then we'll order some more. Now, what they didn't know was I was part of this, college Bible study. And we were probably about 50 deep, but then it was connected to a church that had other college Bible studies, and collectively there were about 200 of us. So I'm doing shows for them. I'm doing events for them. So they're all fans. They're like, when are you going to put out a CD? When are you going to put out a CD? So I said, well, it just so happens that it's going to be at this store. 2 CDs were in the store. I sent 2 people in there. They bought them. They said, man, we need 10. I put 10 in there, sent 10 people over there. They bought those 10. God. They said, we need 25. Don't worry. I got over 200 people. So they ended up getting on the phone and saying, man, this guy is selling. And they kind of became a promotional wheel for us to put it in different music stores around the city. And as I would travel, I would tell people, go to this store, go to this store. So it started to bolster that way. Then I did this camp in Missouri, and kids came from all over the nation. It's like a sports camp.
Oh, what's it called?
Kids Across America.
Okay.
So it's a sports camp in Missouri. So then they go home with my CD, and they're telling their people, their pastor, their friends, their community centers. So now it's bubbling. The labels hadn't called yet because they don't know, like, we're not showing up on SoundScan just yet.
Yeah.
We're still hand to hand. What ended up happening is when iTunes started having their charts, we put our music on there, and all the kids at the time would like, this is where we can find this music. So I'll never forget the day my song was on iTunes and it beat out Nicki Minaj, and all Nicki's fans were mad, and they were sending me mean tweets.
They're still mad to this day about everything. But that's another story. That's another topic.
Yeah. So all that to say, that's when people started taking notice. Like, what the heck is going on? What is happening here? Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's fascinating that you mentioned this summer camp, because that's kind of how I first found you. When I was a kid, my sister went to a Christian summer camp in Texas.
Okay.
And they
That's
would only
Pine Cove or something like that.
It was literally Pine Cove.
Yeah.
Shout out Lee. But so,
I performed there too.
Oh my God. Wait, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to tell her all of this, but she'll also probably watch this. But so she would go to that camp, come home, and she'd have all these new songs for her iPod that we shared at the time.
Right. Yep.
And so that's how I got put onto you. And I mean, 2 decades later, still going strong.
It's crazy.
Man, most people don't have that kind of longevity. I really want to also get into the the way that the Christian music industry has evolved around you over the last 2 decades. So from the early beginnings to now, can you name like a few inflection points where you feel like the industry in Christian music started to modernize and move towards where we're sitting now? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Christian music's similar to country music, right? In that people are very redundant. They like what they like, and they want it the way that they've always had it. And so
there's a lot of loyalty then.
A lot of loyalty.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So for a long time, it was difficult to get people to transition to digital, right? It was like, no, we want CDs. We don't want digital. We want CDs. Well, I had a younger fan base. I was on YouTube all the time. I was creating content for YouTube because that's where my fans were. That's where I was young. I'm like, hey, this is where we are. So they were already inclined to stream, and that was a turn for the Christian music industry. I'll never forget, Billboard.
Oh God.
Listen, I used to be on the gospel charts on Billboard. All the gospel artists rallied to get me off the gospel charts. And so I'm no longer on the gospel charts because we kept being number one.
Yeah, like all the time.
All the time. And it was because people were buying the digital downloads and not, the traditional Christian artists, their fans were waiting until the CD came out at the store. Ours were just immediately. So that was a transition where people started to say, okay, something has to change.
You also touched on, the summer camp aspect. I'm wondering, so basically with Christian music fan acquisition, it's almost like you have to hit all these little pockets of communities and then they'll adopt you.
Yeah.
And then the next one will. I feel like that is also pretty distinct from what you see with pop music.
Oh, yeah. In the Christian music space, you kind of start with the youth groups and then the camps. And then there's these massive tours, right? There's radio tours that the radio stations put together because it's only
interesting.
There's only like 2 Christian radio stations, and they are syndicated, usually around the country. And so if they put a tour together, there's all that financial backing. And so now you're on this massive tour. Like I did a tour, it's called Winter Jam. It's the biggest Christian tour there is. And we're doing stadiums. We're doing, we're following Drake. Wherever Drake goes, we're hitting the same venues. Where Beyonce goes, we're hitting the same venues. And there's, I saw 500,000 people on tour. You know what I mean? And so it's just a different entity. It's I will say there's way more loyalty. There's a general message that's connecting with listeners. It's a message that everyone is rallying around, so they're supporting it. I don't want to make it sound like nasty, like we're just prostituting our faith for dollars.
No.
But what I will say is that every business is a people business. So you're always trying to figure out how to serve people and give them what they want in exchange for them paying you for your service. And so we just want to do good business with people. I mean, it's an industry, it's a business, and that's what the Christian music industry is.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really interesting. I mean, the only instance that I've heard of kind of a Christian music business deal gone wrong is like the Maverick City Music stuff that's been happening. Basically, there's a couple different lawsuits going on around Maverick City Music, which is such a huge group right now.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, do you see instances of that pretty often where there is kind of a music or like a record label dispute or a disagreement because this is faith and business mixing together?
What I see, honestly, is it's usually tough when the executives don't understand the culture or the faith. So it's kind of like saying you got a guy who's done pop music forever and now he's in charge of the Afrobeat section. And it's like there's some confusion on how this culture moves, what the ideals and the values are. And, you can end up unintentionally being disrespectful because you're just trying to do what you think best to do. And I think that happens a lot of times is where you have executives who are like, well, they don't understand the nuances of this genre, but they understand the music industry. And it's a both and. So that tends to create some tension a lot within the space for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Christian music in general is experiencing a huge boom right now. It's become really, really popular. And I do imagine that there's probably a lot of record executives out there who are like,
Oh yeah.
maybe there's some money to be made here. So, like, is there increasing competition for you as a record label owner who's trying to sign, talent in this space? Is there a lot of competition from mainstream labels now?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, the mainstream labels have indeed gone after a lot of the Christian artists and
Mhm.
thrown bigger checks than some of us independent labels could throw at these artists. The difference is they don't understand the culture, the niche, the type of artist that they should get behind, because a lot of times within, let's just say, hip hop in general, if the song is viral and people like it, it'll work. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It'll work. But there are certain genres, that are a little more nuanced, that are a little more, there's some cultural things. And because Christian music is subject matter oriented, it's like, well, what's the subject matter of this song? And who is this artist? And especially within the Christian hip hop space, we're very communal. So it's almost like I don't want to say you got to pay your dues,
Mm.
but there is a sense of like, who knows you? You know what I
No,
mean?
that's fair. I think that's the same kind of thing I've been hearing from country music executives as the mainstream coastal labels have moved into Nashville because
Yeah.
it just, country's also exploding right now.
Mhm.
And they're kind of like, they want to kind of safeguard their writing rooms
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
their teams and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I do imagine though, there's probably some Christian labels that are maybe, I'm not saying yours, but
Yeah.
like there are probably some that are maybe not keeping up with the speed at which this genre is modernizing and moving into streaming and hitting the younger audiences. I have seen from Spotify's released some numbers that the genre's audience has gotten a lot younger.
Yes.
So do some of the mainstream labels have some catching up to do in terms of what's happening in music right now?
I think so. First of all, let's be clear. The music industry in and of itself is, the rate of change is like 1,000 times more than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no one has fully grasped where we are and where we're going. I think everyone is holding on by the seat of their pants. Our exec team group text is actually called Pivot Gang. Because you've
great.
got to be ready to
Yeah.
pivot at any moment. And
Yeah.
that's one of the benefits we have of being an independent label, is that we can move very rapidly. We can change things. Whereas bigger labels, there's a lot more red tape, a lot more bureaucracy, a lot
Totally.
more things that they have to go through. Now, I will say this, for some of the smaller Christian labels, not smaller, some of the Christian labels that are attached to mainstream labels, they do have a little more, they have a tougher time adjusting, being at ground level, understanding what's going on. It helps for me to not only be a label owner, but an artist. So I'm at the festivals, I'm at the places, I'm talking to the younger artists, I'm looking at who's rising up and who people love. So I get to be at ground zero a lot more than a lot of the other labels do.
Yeah. And going back to what you're saying about doing that radio tour, that was such a big deal. Radio has been seen as such a gatekeeper in the music industry for so long, but now as people have moved more and more onto streaming, including Christian music fans, I imagine that some of the Christian radio stations have lost some of that, institutional power, the gatekeeper power that they once had. How do you think that that is going to affect Christian music as a genre?
Yeah, I think Christian music infrastructures, again, it's so similar to country. Like it kind of transitions a little slower
Yeah.
than a lot of mainstream. So you have a little more time to adjust. So radio will probably live a little longer in the Christian space than it will live in mainstream spaces, right? 40-year-old soccer mom who's got kids in the back and she wants some clean music for her kids to listen to. She's a millennial mom, but she may not be a playlist mom just yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, 34-year-old mom may have grown up making playlists on her apps and is more streaming, and that's more her niche. 40 plus moms probably, using maybe using a playlist, but she still might listen to the radio to find her music. So it's a both and, I think. But as the audience gets younger, then I think that definitely becomes more of a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think the audience is getting so much younger? I know you've always had a young audience, but
Yeah.
most of Christian music has not had that.
Yeah.
So why do you think the audiences in Christian music are getting younger?
I think the parents of Gen Z were inundated with religion, right? They were like, it was forced on them, right? Forced on millennials in a lot of ways where it was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so
Right.
we're more exploratory. We're like, I'm not forcing this on my kids. I'm not doing that. And so there's a generation of Gen Zs who are like, well, I didn't grow up in a religious household and I'm interested. Like, what is this thing you're keeping from me, mom?
Yeah.
That grandma's showed you, and like, what are you afraid? Oh, I just don't want you to not be able to wear pants, and and
Sure.
and so Gen Z is like, well, we want to know about God and we want to explore our faith and we're interested in spirituality. And so that age group is the most transformative and rebellious age group. Revolutionaries are generally like college students. And so they're like, no, we're going to charge the gates. What we want to listen to this, and this is what we're going to do. And so they're just mobilizing, and they're so open to spirituality. They're not as off-put as older generations were.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, politics has become a big thing in a lot of churches. A lot of preachers are starting to talk more and more about politics in the church. I'm wondering, have you seen politics infiltrate the Christian music industry?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
I think what has happened is politics have created a dividing line in a lot of ways for Christians in general. And so it's made it really polarizing. Like, are you this side or that side? Which I think is unfortunate. But because politics has made everything so polarizing, people are looking for soundtracks to their views. And so they're saying, well, this aligns with where I stand politically. Obviously, Christians, by and large, I'm not saying Christians are conservative politically, but Christians have conservative views in general, by and large. I'm generalizing, broad
Yes, of
brush,
course.
right? Christians have some conservative views. So people would assume that Christians are going to be conservatives or politically conservative. And so politicians will say, hey, we want this artist or this song or this person to be at our event or our festival or our thing and back us this way and do this. And that does help or hinder in some capacities, because in people's minds you've drawn a line. I think in the same way people think country music is politically conservative. That's just it's not necessarily true, but that's the perception.
Yeah. So do you think that country and Christian have risen up at this moment because there's also a rise in conservatism?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. That's something I'm not really sure about. Within the church space, it's still very cultural and coastal. So by and large, I don't think you're going to see a lot of Black Christians who are going to vote politically conservative.
Totally.
By and large, I don't think you'll see a lot of coastal Christians vote politically conservative, right? Like California, New York.
Totally.
In the middle, for sure.
Yeah.
So potentially, I mean, it could have an effect.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is there a big racial dividing line within Christian music?
Not intentionally.
Okay.
Not intentionally. I think it's the result of, American racism and culture. So I think because, let's just use black and whites for now, right? Because Black people were told you're not allowed to worship with us in this, historically in America, Black people said, well, we got to have our own churches, which created their own sound, which created their own styles, which says, well, this is how we worship God culturally. And then you got white Christians who saying, well, this is how we've been worshiping God culturally. And the sounds are so different that it was like, well, these are actually two genres. Let's make them two genres. They're both Christian by subject matter, but within this genre, let's have some subgenres. It's weird because the charts reflect it, but oftentimes there's two different worlds that exist. And that's why I've tried to be a bridge as best as I could, because I see the division.
Yeah. Well, you've also been outspoken in recent years about kind of your own struggles with the church and deciding like how you feel about that. And is that also a crisis of personal faith, or is it just about like the church as an institution?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
So, I was going to ask because your livelihood, your art
Oh,
is all tied up in your faith.
yes, right.
I mean, I imagine that added to the strain that you experienced. So I just want to hear more about
Yeah,
your
I
journey with
mean,
that.
for me as a black man in America, what I wrestled through in 2014 through 2016 and just seeing unarmed black people being killed, to me, I saw that as um a moral issue, right? It's not a political issue to me. That was moral. It's like, hey, stop this. So I was outspoken about it. I did not realize that a lot of Christians saw it as a political issue, and they thought I had chosen to be political. And so it just showed how different we were and how worlds apart we were in our experiences. Because of that, I was chastised and said, "Hey, if you're going to keep being political, we're not going to support you anymore." And just get back to the gospel, stop talking about political issues. And I was like, well, to me, the gospel is a message that cares about people holistically. Well, it created an exodus of fans for me in that season of time. So
did you see that actually reflect in numbers?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that must have been terrifying.
Positively. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I had to recognize and realize, well, what's more important to me, being authentic and really standing on what I believe in, or, placating people and making songs that they'll keep buying, even though I feel like I'm being a fraud. Right. So,
Totally.
So I remember a show I had in Philly one year, and it was, about 3,000 people showed up. Right. After speaking out against some of the violence that I had seen, there were 400 people that showed up at the next event. And so,
oh, wow.
So, you do the math.
Wow.
So that's how impactful it was.
Man, and you didn't even know what you were really stepping into. You didn't think you were like taking a stand that was going to be controversial.
I didn't initially.
Yeah.
After a while, I realized it was, and people warned me like, "Hey, you might want to stop because this is going to affect your money." And I was like, "I'm not doing it for that. Then I'll have to go work a job, or I'll have to do something else because I can't. I just can't be quiet about what I feel like I'm supposed to speak about." Yeah.
Do you think that Christian artists need to speak up about political issues?
I think social issues.
Social
yes.
issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, I'm not anti-politics. I just think that your politics should conform to your social and moral convictions, not the other way around. Let me not bend my moral convictions to my politics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. Because if we, in the Bible, Christians believe that the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And how can you love people as yourself if you're afraid to speak up on behalf of them, right? You're not really loving them if you're not willing to take a stand, if you're not willing to stand by people or protest, or, I'm not saying, you can pray, you can protest, you can do policy, you can do publicity, whatever, but you do need to be involved socially in some capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so tell me more about the evolution of Reach.
Yeah.
So where did it start? It started as like kind of a necessity, it sounds like, for you to get your music out there, but now you're signing the next generation that you've inspired. So tell me more about that journey.
I saw that we had a movement, and I fell to the background a little bit when I saw that some of my social views, everyone at my label is not me. So we don't all see eye to eye on everything, and I don't want to hinder the label. So I stepped back and said, okay, let's focus on me being an executive in the building and not on the forefront. And let's just put our head down and work on finding new artists, signing new artists, developing new artists. And we developed a new generation of artists that have just done tremendously well. You've got my guy Hovey, who's torn the charts up, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then Hovey is where we developed a relationship with Forrest Frank. And Forrest, again, him and Hovey have a song that went gold, and it's been killing. And then we just, that was what I would call our season 3, of investing. And now we're in season 4. And so we've got some new signings. One I can't announce, but it'll be announced very soon. It's a big one.
Okay.
And this is a season where, again, man, it's Gen Z. It's kind of like, you know, we're just looking at where the future is and who the future is and those voices, and that's what we've been doing. And so for me, I've always been very selfless in not trying to put myself as an artist on the forefront. I'll use myself as a banner. I mean, I'll take my royalties. I took my initial royalties and reinvested them into the other artists.
Yeah.
You know, to build the label up. So I'll use me as a banner, whatever is necessary in order to keep the movement going. And so now that's where we've been. We're the #1 independent label in the city of Atlanta.
Whoa.
Right. And you've got,
Okay.
because we're fully independent.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Who do you distribute through?
Merlin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah. So you are fully
we're
independent.
fully independent.
Wow.
So yeah. So we have, you know, sold millions of albums, and we got 11 artists, and, you know, a staff of, you know, 20, and man, it's been great.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy. Atlanta is a city where there's a lot happening. So
That's right.
that says a lot.
That's right.
Well, okay, so the catalog market has been red hot in the last few years. I don't really know what that market is like for Christian catalogs, but do you still own your catalog?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Have you
Yeah.
ever considered selling?
Yeah, I mean, you always, you look at that and you say, man, is this what I need to do? What's the benefit? What's the cost benefit analysis? Are we going to reinvest in this label? Is this the best thing for us? The beautiful thing for us is that, man, just as myself, being independent, owning all my publishing, trying to do right by everyone else, letting them have their independence. And for us, it's never been an issue of like, we're struggling or we're strapped and we gotta let this go in order to survive. It's been more of what's wisest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's the wisest decision?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's all. It's never off the table.
Yeah.
You know, it's never off the table. It's just about, does this make sense for us right now?
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when, so I make like some short form videos about the music business to try to open things up to a wider audience of people beyond just the Billboard audience. Because a lot of my stories are paywalled. And so it's mostly people in the music business that are seeing those. And so I wanted to kind of expand it out. But oftentimes when I talk about catalogs, because I think maybe the Taylor Swift of it all, she had a really bad situation and something that she was not happy with.
Yeah.
General fans don't seem to really understand that oftentimes when artists are selling their catalog, they're very excited about it and that it's like a really great thing for them. And it's like a strategic decision rather than something that's happening out from under you.
That's right.
Of course, the bad version of it can happen, but it's been eye-opening to see how fans view things versus how the core audience of music business folks see
I mean, a lot of people haven't read. It's a big book. It's hard to get an audio version of David Geffen's book, The Operator.
Oh, it's been on my list for a long time. Should I do it? Okay.
Phenomenal.
Okay.
But the brilliance of David Geffen is that he created things and he held them with an open hand. He sold them, and then he created another thing. And then he sold that, and then he created another thing. And I think if you have a vision for that, I think that's brilliant. That's business. You can create more opportunities. You can do more things. And so if I have a $100 million catalog in my hands and I have a vision to build, I don't know, something else, another media company or something along those lines, and now I've got this $100 million, and I can say, okay, how I can invest in this next vision, and then that becomes a $200 million liquidity event, and then I sell that, and then I move on to the $1 billion.
Yeah.
And so it's all about, do you have a vision for what's next? And you know, I love being in the music industry. There's some other things that I'm interested in as I start getting into media spaces and looking around.
Yeah. Because you have a podcast.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Yeah.
So as I move around, I'm like, okay, well, maybe this might be an investment here. There may be something to do. Yeah.
What's piquing your interest right now?
Oh, definitely media. Like, I think the podcast has opened up my mind to just like, okay. And there's so many things happening with social media as well. So like they all kind of merge together. When you start talking about podcasts, long form, short form, this whole media space, especially within the genre of Christian, it's like there's still a gap.
Totally.
Right. And so the same way I saw a gap with Christian hip hop, I see a gap still. And I'm like, that's a gap I think we may be able to fill.
Yeah. I mean, would you go all the way into like a film, TV, like full production kind of thing? Or are you kind of more interested in the docs, podcasts, that kind of vibe?
I think we tiptoe in and we start with, you know, some docs, some podcast stuff.
Yeah.
And develop some shows. And then if you can make it work on YouTube and maybe some paywall stuff, then you can branch out and get a little more, you know, dive in a little deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so to take it back to your music, you've collaborated with a lot of artists that are not Christian, or or they don't traditionally release in that. Maybe that's their faith, but they never really write about it.
Yeah.
I was just listening to your song with John Bellion, which I absolutely loved.
Love John.
But I'm wondering how these collaborations came about. Like, when you're reaching out to these artists, are they typically very responsive to the idea of writing about their faith for the first time? Tell me about that.
That's a good question. I think so. There's probably 3 types of collaborators, right? As it pertains to that, you've got collaborator 1 who's like, I've been itching to talk about this side of who I am for so long, and you're the right voice, right platform, right person for me to do that with, right? That's your John Bellion, that's your Tori Kelly, right? There's just, oh my gosh, I was waiting for this moment, right? Then you've got another group of people who are like, man, I just so respect the space and the world you exist in. And I respect you as an artist and how you have taken the craft seriously. And I just want to work with you, right? I don't necessarily know where I stand faith-wise. Maybe I agree, but I'm not quite sure. But on a lot of these principles, we're on the same page. Let's work together. I think of, I don't know, Rhapsody or Big Crit, you know, and we're there. And then you've got the other artist who's like, I just like making dope music. And this song is a smash. And let's work together. I love you. You're dope. This is dope. I'm not gonna put my faith out there necessarily. My lack of or religiosity. I just think you're dope. This song is dope. We should make something together. And there's a mutual respect. Like, I would never say anything on your record that's gonna be in conflict. And to me, that's Ty Dolla $ign. That's John Legend. You know, it's like that. Those are great collabs as well. Yeah,
that's fascinating. And I imagine that also has really opened up like faith-based music to secular audiences that never really thought that they would give it a try.
Right.
And then they catch themselves and they're like, oh, I kind of like that song.
I love that. That's my favorite thing. Because at the end of the day, you know, there are some faith-based artists whose message is very explicit every time, right? And it may be something you don't agree with. It's so explicit, you're like, I don't know if I agree with that. But there's a lot of faith-based artists who make songs that are an expression of their faith. It's just, it's something that it's implicit, right? Yeah. So if I made a song about how, man, let's stop killing each other. Well, that's an implicit faith value for me. But it may be for someone else who doesn't share my faith. They're like, I agree with that, actually. Let's stop killing each other. And you may listen to that and be like, I agree with this too. Let's stop killing each other. Well, this is Christian? It is. Yeah. But, you know, it's so interesting. I love the song.
Yeah. I even think of like, I don't even know if they intended this to be Christian, but previous to my time at Billboard, I worked at 10K Projects on Surfaces, which is Forrest Frank's original project, the duo. Yeah. They had that song Sunday Best.
That's right.
And if you listen through it knowing him now as a Christian artist, it's like,
of course,
obvious what he's talking about. Right. Obvious that it's like inflected with his faith in there, but it's not explicit.
That's right.
It's just positive, uplifting stuff. And he's moved more and more into that. And it's been really exciting to see him do that. And he's totally dominated and done a great job with it. So it's interesting, the idea of kind of the explicit versus the implicit faith-based music. Yeah. But I'm also wondering how you've navigated your relationship with fans and how Christian artists in general navigate their relationship with fans, because obviously idolization is something that Christianity would frown upon.
For sure.
And so, but fans always will have that urge to idolize their favorite artists.
Yeah, so, especially teenage girls.
Yeah. So how do you navigate that? As a former teenage girl, I can relate.
You know what? I mean, honestly, for me, it's been a intentional pursuit of humility, right? So it's intentional on my part to be like, hey, I don't do this for my own glorification, my own self promotion, right? I want to make music to serve other people, and I have to remember that. Like I'm offering a service to these people. You are just as important as I am. Like we're equally important. And I often will say that from the stage. Like I'm standing up here taller than you, but it's not because I'm better than you. It's because you've allowed me to serve you with my voice. And I'm here for you just as much as you're here for me. So I'm constantly trying to encourage them in that regard. Obviously, you know, we're all human beings. So everyone's going to struggle. Everyone's going to struggle with pride. The most well-intentioned Christian person is still going to have human struggles. Totally. So that's still going to be an issue. I just think if you don't pay attention to it, then it becomes catastrophic, you know, with the fans and the industry and the whole nine. Yeah. But I mean, even outside of Christian faith, pride kills people over and over again, right? Totally. You start looking at artists and be like, yo, you are just a jerk. I don't like you. You know what I mean?
Faith aside, you're just a jerk, actually.
You're an arrogant jerk. I don't like you. Yeah.
Well, okay, so one of the things I report on at Billboard is AI. And AI has certainly become part of some of our smaller charts at Billboard. We've seen on our gospel charts in particular, there have been a couple different AI-generated projects that have climbed those charts. Zanaya Monet is one. Another is Solomon Ray. I'm wondering why you think gospel is one of those genres that is seeing,
AI rise.
AI rise.
That's an interesting question. For a long time, there has been a high emphasis on message in Christian music, which sometimes puts a low emphasis on craftsmanship.
Interesting.
And so because the message is paramount, the craftsmanship sometimes takes a back seat. And I think in some ways, people are not as concerned with the craftsmanship. And so something that's AI can either be much better than previous craftsmanship or much worse, but not much worse, but on par. And it's like, it works.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to listen to something that has God as part of it.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I could see that being a reason. Maybe not the reason, but I can see that being a reason.
I can see that too. I also have my own theories about this. I think that we've kind of touched on this a little bit. There are some sects of Christian music that appeal to older audiences. I'm kind of wondering if some of these people just don't even know.
Yeah, for sure.
They're just like, okay, a song came to me and it's about God and it sounds pretty much like the other stuff that I listen to that's about God, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, and I mean, also, I think it like should be said that these charts also have a lower threshold. Like like you were saying before, you were always at the top of the gospel charts, and it's a genre that is not listened to quite as widely as hip hop or R&B or whatever. So the threshold to making it to the top of a digital song sales chart in gospel, for example, or I don't even know if that's a real chart. I'm going to check myself on that. Well, but it's like some of those niche charts, the bar isn't super high, but that does mean that people are buying it or listening to it somehow.
Sure. I'm not anti-AI. I am anti-AI being our creative engine. You know what I mean? Like, we are human beings. We are creators. We are a reflection of the creator. We should be creating. And if we're just prompting, hey, make a song about this. Well, you're not creating anything. You're just you're generating and it's replicating. There's someone created something that it replicated, but you're just generating, it's replicating. There's no creating happening.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay, well, that's a great way to end off. We have a few like little game things that we always end off with if you're game for a game.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I literally just made this. It's DIY, y'all.
Hilarious.
Okay.
That's good, actually. It looks good.
So we're trying this for the first time.
All
today.
right, I'm the guinea pig.
Okay, you're the guinea pig, so just spin the wheel and whatever it lands on.
That's what I got to answer.
You got to answer.
All right,
so
let's
it's
do
called
it.
Spin the Record.
Spin the record. I like it.
There we go.
This is pretty good. You did a
Thank
good
you.
job. You did a good job. Okay, what are we at?
Pre-show ritual. What's your pre-show ritual?
Pre-show ritual. It's changed over the years. It used to be like something like a energy drink or energy powder, amp myself up because my show is always like high energy. Now is, man, I gotta warm up my knees. My knees are older. I gotta do knee warm-ups, some jumps, some get the knees warmed up. Yeah, knees warmed up, prayer, and I eat too before shows. A lot of people don't like eating food. I can eat before my show.
Do you have a special thing? Like, is there anything in your rider that's always waiting for you in the dressing room?
I try to keep it pretty clean.
Okay.
Coke Zero's always in my rider. I'm a fanatic. I'm a fiend.
Fair enough.
But like trail mix, some jalapeno kettle chips, protein bars, protein shakes. But I can eat a whole. See, the thing is, I'm a calorie counter.
Oh.
So
okay.
if I would rather eat something I shouldn't eat before the show because it's gonna be a lot of movement on stage.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
okay, we'll have you spin it one more time, and
right.
then we'll move on.
Let's go.
There is one about writers, so we'll have to change that if you can. Oh, dream collab. Who have you not collabed with yet? You already checked off a lot of boxes.
I have. One of my dream collabs is Lauryn Hill, just because I love how she impacted me as a kid, as a youngin'. You know what I mean? Just like her music. To me, I didn't grow up in church. I didn't grow up on gospel. Her music was that first blend of like faith and hip hop and R&B. And I was like, wow, I didn't know you could do this.
Yeah.
So Lauryn Hill, I would say, this is going to sound terrible.
Okay.
This is going to sound so bad. But
right.
Old Kanye.
Okay. Yeah.
Old,
yeah. Before any of this.
Yeah,
yeah.
before Meltdown Kanye, like old Kanye would have been on the bucket list.
I mean, when I think of Christian hip hop, I also think of Jesus Walks.
That's true. That's right.
That came out, what, 2006?
That's
2007?
right. Very inspiring.
Love that song.
Yeah, very inspiring.
Okay. So we always end off every episode of On The Record with what would you cue? Okay, so what would you cue to take you back to your childhood?
Anything Tupac.
Perfect.
Anything Tupac.
What would you cue to represent your favorite era of music?
Something Erykah Badu. Right? Maybe Mama's Gun album by Erykah Badu. That was just my favorite. It was a favorite era. Yeah.
Oh, and she's actually on the cover right behind you.
Hey,
so there you go. There she is.
Hey, Erykah. From Texas.
Oh, yes. DFW represent once again.
Yeah.
Okay, what would you cue to remember the best concert you've ever been to?
Busta Rhymes. I mean, I saw Busta Rhymes, Wu-Tang. I was a kid, and it was really like, it wasn't my first concert, but it was my second concert. But it was just like, I did not know.
Mind-blowing.
Hip hop was like, I had seen hip hop. It was my first time seeing hip hop live. So it's like Busta Rhymes, Wu-Tang Clan, I think Bone Thugs and Harmony maybe. It's just like all of it. It was just like, wow. Yeah.
Incredible. Okay, last one. What would you cue to turn a newcomer onto Christian music?
This is not me being
Mm.
biased, but I say listen to my Anomaly album. It was actually a Billboard #1 album on all charts.
There we go. Billboard shout out. Okay, thank you so much, Lecrae, for coming to On The Record.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you so much to Lecrae for joining me to talk about the explosive rise of the Christian music market and how it's different from everything else. And thank you for listening to this week's episode of On The Record. If you liked today's show, give us a follow on Instagram or our brand new TikTok page at Billboard On The Record, where you can find new clips of this show every single week. We'd also appreciate if you rated our show on your favorite podcast platform, because all of these things help On The Record grow bigger and better than ever. Again, I'm your host, Kristen Robinson, and tune in next week for another peek behind the curtain of the music business. I'll see you then.